BBC Wales Today with Nick Savini's in 25 minutes on BBC One Wales after Christmas Eve's early evening news presented by Reeta Chakrabarti.
A glimmer of Christmas hope, says a senior health official, as early data suggests Omicron is milder than Delta. COVID vaccine centres across England will be open all weekend for booster jabs, amid caution from experts over Omicron's effect on older age groups.
It's only just now that the cases are starting to tip into the older population, particularly the 60 and 70 plus year olds. And there are a number of different reasons why we need to continue to look at this data further.
With restrictions due to come in on Sunday in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, we'll be asking if England will follow suit. Also tonight, the Queen's first Christmas message since her husband Prince Philip died is expected to be a very personal one. The telescope that will delve deeper into the universe and detect events further back in time than ever before will be launched tomorrow on Christmas Day.
You got no money, but you have two beautiful children.
And the family overwhelmed with kindness and concern after 9-year-old DeJounte spoke out about struggling this Christmas. Good evening. Official findings that the Omicron variant of coronavirus may be less likely to result in serious illness than Delta offer a glimmer of Christmas hope, according to the head of the UK Health Security Agency. But Professor Jenny Harries also told the BBC that Omicron infections are only now beginning to tip into the older population, and it remains uncertain how seriously they'll experience the new variant. And the latest figures from the Office for National Statistics suggest that more than 1.7 million people had the virus last weekend. That's the highest figure since the pandemic began. Here's our health editor, Hugh Pym.
London is the epicentre of the surge, and new figures suggest that 1 in 20 people in the city now have the virus, either the Omicron or Delta variants. The data comes from the Office for National Statistics, which tests people from tens of thousands of households, picking up those who don't have symptoms. Its latest survey points to a faster spread around the UK.
Well, we're seeing really quick increases in prevalence right across the country and across all ages. And significantly, for the very first time, although the numbers are at the moment very, very small, in the over 70s.
This chart shows how rapidly infections in the UK were rising as measured by the ONS at the end of last week and into the weekend, to more than 1.7 million people with the virus. There were differences around the UK though. In England it was 1 in 35 people, in Northern Ireland 1 in 40 and Wales 1 in 45, while in Scotland it was 1 in 65 people with the virus. Omicron cases are rising rapidly, but it's less likely than Delta to put people in hospital, according to new research, and officials say that's reassuring.
There's a glimmer of Christmas hope in the findings that we published yesterday, but it definitely isn't yet at the point where we could downgrade that serious threat. I think the findings showed on some very, very preliminary analysis and very small numbers, which I'd want to reinforce, that individuals compared to Delta are around 30 to 45% less likely to attend A&E.
But it's finely balanced. If there are a lot more Omicron cases, that'll still make some people ill enough to need hospital treatment, as well as increasing staff sickness, adding to the already considerable pressure on the NHS.
There's the increasing absence rates, the queuing at hospital, the hearing aid control staff call out for any ambulances that are available, and there just aren't any left. That is taking its toll on frontline staff.
While ministers work out what further steps to take, efforts are being made to get the booster programme into the heart of local communities, here in an Asian restaurant in Bradford.
We're creating access where our communities are, so a restaurant is the best place for this time of the year to come and bring the vaccines, to make it as easy and as accessible as we can.
Boosters will be available on Christmas Day and Boxing Day in England, though not in the rest of the UK. And in Basingstoke today, there was no shortage of takers for a Christmas Eve jab.
It's an interesting one, but I want to get it done because I want to see family. And it's just easy peasy, it's around the corner.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, made sense to do it, so do my bit for the community and everybody else.
But as people enjoy Christmas attractions, the prospects for New Year and beyond remain highly uncertain. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
Well, COVID infections surged to another record high today. There were a further 122,186 new cases recorded in the latest 24-hour period. The average over the past week is more than 101,000 new cases every day. 137 deaths were recorded. That's of people who died within 28 days of a positive test. And 116 COVID-related deaths were recorded on average every day in the past week. On vaccinations, just over 605,000 people had their boosters yesterday, meaning on average more than 850,000 people had a third jab every day in the past week. In all, more than 32 million people have had a booster. That's 56% of the population aged over 12. Let's speak to Hugh now, who joins me. So, Hugh, restrictions are coming in on Sunday in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So is England going to follow where the nations are leading?
Well, Reeta, there are two directions of travel at the moment for the data, which makes it really hard to read the overall picture. First of all, as we've been hearing, cases are rising. There was this surge picked up by the ONS at the end of last week and into the weekend, described as sobering by the head of the ONS, really quite a sharp increase there. But then, as we've been hearing through this week, various pieces of research pointing to the fact that it's less severe in terms of the number of people who end up in hospital than Delta. Now, it seems that in government, the picture is very much leave it till early next week. No decisions yet about meetings or whether there needs to be any further announcement about restrictions. Nothing's being ruled out. They need the data. That is actually why the Office for National Statistics is updating its very authoritative survey. But what is causing a concern is the continued rise of hospital numbers with COVID in London, and also the prospect of more absences across the NHS, social care and other bits of the public sector. Those factors are being watched very closely by ministers.
Thank you very much. Hugh Pym there. The Queen is expected to give a very personal Christmas message tomorrow, her first since the death of her husband, Prince Philip. She'll speak beside a framed photograph of the couple taken during their diamond wedding anniversary in 2007, and she'll wear the same sapphire brooch that she wore on her honeymoon. A warning, our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell's report contains flashing images.
Rehearsing at Windsor for their part in the Queen's Christmas broadcast, the Central Band of the Royal British Legion, who will play the national anthem which begins the broadcast. This year's Christmas message, a still from which has been issued by Buckingham Palace, will be an unusually personal one. The Queen is wearing a brooch which she wore on her honeymoon, and on the desk beside her, a photograph of her and Prince Philip taken in 2007 when they celebrated their diamond wedding anniversary. It's 8 months now since Philip's death. So far, the Queen has not spoken publicly in any detail about how much he meant to her. Her broadcast will be an opportunity for her to do so. Within the royal family, mindful that this will be the Queen's first Christmas without her husband, arrangements have been adjusted so that she won't be alone. The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall will be with her at Windsor. Other members of the family, the Wessexes and the Gloucesters, will also be there. Absent, of course, will be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. From their home in California, they've issued this photograph wishing their supporters a happy holiday. It shows Harry and Meghan with their son Archie and their daughter Lilibet, pictured for the first time. And so, at the end of a year touched by personal sadness and some family tensions, thoughts will start to look ahead to next year and the celebrations to mark the Queen's 70 years on the throne. Uppermost in the minds of the palace planners, of course, will be the question of the Queen's health. It's always a sensitive matter. It has particular significance after the recent concerns, and given that next year is the year of her Platinum Jubilee. The Queen will certainly want to be involved in the Jubilee as fully as possible, and there will be another event of special significance to her, a service of thanksgiving for the life of the Duke of Edinburgh, which, it's been announced, will take place at Westminster Abbey in the spring. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
The most powerful telescope ever to be launched into space blasts off from French Guiana tomorrow. It's travelling 1.5 million kilometres from Earth, and it'll look back in time to the first luminous glows after the Big Bang. Our science editor Rebecca Morell has more.
It's taken 30 years to develop, cost more than $10 billion and has involved thousands of scientists. Now the James Webb Space Telescope is finally ready to launch to begin the most ambitious astronomy mission ever attempted.
This telescope is absolutely the biggest and most complex and most powerful telescope that we've ever attempted to send to space. All of us astronomers are extremely eager to get this telescope into space, but I think it's going to work, and I think it's going to, again, just completely revolutionize how we understand the cosmos.
The telescope is a successor to Hubble, which has given us amazing images. But James Webb is much more powerful. Its mirror is almost 3 times bigger, which means it can reveal parts of the cosmos we've never seen before.
Gazing up into the heavens can help us to answer some of the biggest questions, like where we come from and how did we get here. This space telescope will help us to look further back in time than ever before, to 13.5 billion years ago, revealing the light from the very first stars to shine. We'll be able to see the earliest galaxy formation and whether they spiral into space like our own Milky Way. And other planetary systems will also come into view, allowing us to discover whether life could exist on other worlds.
Scientists will be able to study every phase of cosmic history.
We think that the first stars might actually be really huge, and they would be burning really hot and really brightly and would die very quickly, possibly with a huge explosion. But we haven't seen these yet, and we really hope that this is something that we're going to find with the Webb telescope.
But before it can take any images, there's the most difficult task ahead. The telescope's so huge, to get it into a rocket, it's been folded up like origami. For it to unfurl in space, more than 100 release mechanisms need to fire at exactly the right time, in the right order. If anything goes wrong, it's game over.
We know there are many ways that it could fail. So that means rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. We've unfolded it and folded up many times. We've examined it carefully every time. We say, well, that's not quite right. We better fix that. And it's extraordinarily challenging.
The final preparations have been underway. It's an incredibly tight fit as the rocket is tentatively lowered over the folded telescope. This is high-stakes science, but if it works, it could lead to discoveries that scientists haven't even dreamt of. Rebecca Morell, BBC News.
Rail passengers are facing major disruption today due to a strike by staff on cross-country trains. RMT members have walked out in a dispute over the role of guards. Cross-country say that routes are affected from northern Scotland to southwest England, and they advise passengers to check their journeys before travelling. Christmas Eve celebrations have been taking place in Bethlehem, including an annual procession led by the head of the Roman Catholic Church in the region. The events will culminate in a mass starting in just over 3 hours' time at the Church of the Nativity, built on the spot where it's believed that Jesus was born. Our Middle East correspondent Tom Bateman reports.
In Manger Square, they wait for the biggest night of the year. A Christmas procession follows the route believed to have been taken by Mary and Joseph. It's a march of faith. But this season's greetings are mainly between the locals.
The Scout bands are a fixture of Christmas in Manger Square, and you can feel the energy. But what is missing are the international visitors and pilgrims that would usually be thronging the square here. And that is a devastating blow for the second year running, because Bethlehem needs tourism to keep surviving.
The glimmers of tourism restarting last month have gone, derailed by border closures due to the new COVID variant.
People trying to find joy and happiness from nothing. So it's very interesting, very impressive.
Since the beginning of 2020, everything is closed. All hotels are empty.
It's very, very difficult. People, especially those who are working in tourism sector, they are selling land or houses.
The characters of Christmas come to life in this olive wood factory. Ibrahim is the only worker here today. Normally, he'd be joined by 4 more. For Palestinian Christians in this part of the West Bank, life has been a challenge, says Nabil, whose family has run the shop for decades.
We could keep our workers till the moment, but I don't know. You know, it's hard. I have 2 shops. One is here. The one on the major square, it's been like 24 months, 0 income. It's sad. It's not normal to see Bethlehem this way.
But at Christmas, there's always light to look up to. As this town celebrates, it remains a year of hope against the odds. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Bethlehem.
A third Boxing Day Premier League match has been postponed because of a COVID outbreak. Too many Everton players either have coronavirus or injuries, which mean they can't play against Burnley. The Premier League had already announced that outbreaks in the Leeds and Watford squads left them unable to travel to Liverpool and Wolves, respectively. LadBaby has made chart history by becoming the Christmas #1 for a record 4th consecutive year. Proceeds from the parody track Sausage Rolls for Everyone will go to the Trussell Trust food banks, and the single features appearances from a few well-known faces, as our entertainment correspondent Lizo Mazimba reports.
Ed Sheeran and Sir Elton John. It's Christmas.
2 of music's biggest names helping LadBaby cover one of their songs and helping him make history with his 4th Christmas #1 in a row.
It's amazing that once again the great British public have backed us this year and our song and raised an incredible amount of money and shone a light on the Trussell Trust and the food banks of the UK, and thank you. I genuinely can't believe that we've been able to do it again. It's incredible.
The Trussell Trust's network of food banks provides thousands of emergency food parcels every day to people living in crisis. They'll receive all the profits from the single, something that started back in 2018 when LadBaby and his wife had the idea of giving a famous song a sausage roll themed makeover for charity.
We built this city on sausage rolls.
It continued the year after that. And the year after that. Now, LadBaby has exceeded the record of consecutive Christmas #1s that he shared with the Spice Girls and the Beatles. And at the same time, he's helped raise tens of thousands of pounds for those most in need.
It's Christmas.
Lizo Mazimba, BBC News.
The family of a 9-year-old boy who spoke out about the rising cost of living say that they've been overwhelmed by the kindness of strangers. DeJounte Samuels told the BBC last week that he wished he were older so that he could help pay for the household bills that his mother, a full-time carer, was struggling to meet. Since then, they've been inundated with gifts and messages of support. Our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan caught up with the family.
DeJounte dreams of being a footballer, a common ambition for many 9-year-olds. But his motivation to earn some money to pay the family's household bills has led to an outpouring of love.
I feel better because people have said that I'm a sweet boy and I'm a good child.
Last week, DeJounte and his mother spoke frankly about their financial struggles, how Christine's full-time salary as a carer wasn't enough to live on. Do you worry?
Yeah, a lot. And I don't want to be living out on the streets. I wish I was older so I could pay the bills with her.
His honesty struck a chord, and the family have been inundated with donations and gifts.
I feel better because they've made me forget about everything that's been bad happening, and they made me think about fun stuff.
A lady gave me £75 to get him a sneak, and then he was like, I can take some of it for the bills. And I'm like, oh my God. I know it will take some time. It's not gonna just go like that, really. Yeah, I'm just happy that he's happy.
My favourite thing in here is my bed cover, and I really love it. And on the pillow...
The Arsenal presents have made the Jonty happiest, and his 18-year-old sister has also been sent some gifts. But for his mother, it's the cards and letters that have meant the most.
If somebody say like something positive to me, like I'm a wonderful person and stuff, I find it hard to receive that because I never grew up like that where, you know, your parents will speak these words. You got no money, but you have 2 beautiful children that absolutely love you, and one day will understand all you have done for them. It's good when you receive words like those. It gives you a lot of motivation. It's very powerful. I think I'll be always, every now and then, take them out and look at them. Our lovely Christmas tree.
Among the gifts was this real tree and some presents for the family. From once dreading Christmas, the kindness of strangers has changed everything.
I appreciate this so much, and I was thinking, I don't know, how can I tell these people thanks?
Since we first met, Christine has lost her job. Her first task next year is therefore to get a new one. But the experience of the past week has given her renewed optimism. Michael Buchanan, BBC News, Tipton in the West Midlands.
There's more throughout the evening on the BBC News channel. We are back with the late news at 11:15. Now on BBC One, it's time for the news where you are. Bye-bye.
Good evening. The Welsh Conservatives have called on ministers here to rethink their decision not to cut the self-isolation period for those who test positive for COVID. It comes after the rules in England changed, so people there only have to self-isolate for 7 days, not 10, provided they have a negative lateral flow result. But the Welsh Government's Health Minister, Eluned Morgan, says she wants a less risky approach, as Rob Thomas now reports.
Last-minute Christmas shoppers in Llandudno this morning. But for many companies, thoughts are already turning to the new rules aimed at limiting the spread of the Omicron COVID variant. And for businesses like this one, having to deal with staff being forced to isolate for 10 days if they test positive is a step too far.
I think it's academic, 3 days. I think 7 days is more than enough, given, again, if we're supposed to believe these experts. So if they, in England, think it's good enough, why not? Why do we have to stretch it out to 10?
The UK Health Security Agency advice is that people in England can end quarantine after 7 days instead of 10 after negative lateral flow results on days 6 and 7. And that, say Welsh Conservatives, is what should happen here.
The medical advice here is really clear. Cutting the isolation period actually has very little impact on the spread of the virus.